You come here in year one, you go 7-6. That sort of felt like maybe the fans were giving you some room to build and rebuild. Last year, 11-2 Sugar Bowl. Do you feel like maybe people could exhale around here a little bit, to the extent that they ever do? Exhale that maybe, all right, he's new, he's learning, we're on the right track, I think we're going to be okay.
Well,
Buy you some time?
We are on the right track, there's no question. When we first came here and went 7-6, really, the previous year, Florida was 8-5, so 15-11 over a 2-season span at the University of Florida is totally unacceptable. But that's where our roster was. Our goal is to go to Atlanta at the University of Florida, and when you don't meet that goal, you haven't achieved anything. We've done an outstanding job of recruiting and developing our football team. We had a young team when we first came, and we had some talent on that team. But we really developed those guys on. We've recruited well in the last 2 classes, and I feel like our roster is getting where it needs to be to compete for championships in the SEC. We came 1 game away from that last year, and 1 game away from playing for a national championship. So we're on the right track where we need to go with this program.
Obviously, as we said, you're an emotional guy, coach boom and all that. And it was interesting, your reaction maybe at the end of that first season, how you've talked about maybe tempering that somewhat. Emotion and passion is wonderful, but then how do you turn around and tell your kids to keep their cool when things get dicey? And it seems like maybe you're getting to a place where you're trying to figure out that balance. Is that fair to say?
Well, I think I did a much better job of managing our football team in our second season, from the standpoint of number 1, preparation, and number 2, on game day, and seeing the big picture on offense, defense, and special teams, and understanding what all of that takes, and having a good pulse of our football team. And part of that in my first year was, a little bit of emotional, from the standpoint of battling against where our roster was, where I knew it needed to be, and having the experience in this league and what it was going to take to be successful. And quite frankly, going our first season, I knew there was going to be some growing pains going through that. But I do think managing those situations better certainly has helped our football team.
How about managing the referees? Is that something that you still want to keep doing? Or I feel like, again, I feel like as a species, coaches get too wrapped up in the reffing.
Well, my biggest thing that I've tried to do, and I've always tried to do in any role, is control what you can control. And really worry about those things and spend your time on those things, because you spend too much time and energy on things you have no control over. And that's what I've tried to focus in on.
It's pretty amazing to think that you're coaching here when you spent a good part of your childhood basically a long field goal away from the stadium. And you moved to Rome, Georgia, and there's the famous story that a lot of people know when you got hurt playing baseball, horrible, basically compound fracture in your leg, and you get a 17-inch rod inserted, and that rod is now framed and hanging in your office. You know what fascinated me about that story? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it your mom who did that, who took that rod and put it in a velvet thing and framed it?
Yeah, she did.
Why did she do that?
Well, I think at that point in my life, I'd never really had a lot of adversity. Everything was going pretty well for me as far as athletics were concerned, and that was my first big setback in life. And how you handle that and how you manage that, I attacked it. It was probably, other than being married to my wonderful wife Carol and having 2 wonderful children, probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. From a standpoint of handling adversity at a young age. And
you were devastated when it happened, because it kind of derailed your college plans,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah, totally derailed what I thought I was going to be as far as a scholarship athlete in college, because I hardly played my senior season. I had no senior tape. So it was totally devastating. But again, I look back, it's probably one of the better things that ever happened. And my mom put it in a frame from the standpoint of she understood how important that situation was to me and how I overcame a huge set of obstacles.
Because people talk about your playing with your brothers, and your dad was a tight end at North Carolina. It sounds to me like you got most of your toughness from your mom.
Well, my dad would probably admit that too. And there's no question she's tough. But the love I have from my family, my 2 brothers, my parents is awesome, and the support that they have, and getting me through that situation was great.
And partly because of that injury, you end up walking on at Georgia. You break your collarbone as a freshman, so I don't know if you got brittle bones or bad luck or what you got, but the fact that you could go from that spot to your senior year playing safety and being elected a captain, that to me says a lot about your innate leadership. Is that just something that kind of validated sort of who you are and maybe put you in the mind frame of being a coach, that you were a leader of your peers? But by that point, you probably were already thinking about coaching, right?
Well, I was something I was really interested in. I think sometimes you can fool coaches, but you can't fool your teammates. So when your teammates elect you captain, it says a lot about what you've done for your football team and for your teammates, and that was a great honor. And that's certainly something that I think springboarded me into coaching. I think that was something I was thinking about, not knowing much about the coaching profession, especially on the college level, but it excited me.
Must have been just a great feeling when that happened.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that two great experiences when my head coach Ray Goff gave me a scholarship after my first year at Georgia, and then having the opportunity to be named a captain was really special.